Hello everyone, my name is Dutchy and welcome to RPG Labs. Anyway, today we will be talking about builds, more specifically level builds. So this will not be including gear and all that kind of stuff, just straight up what sort of leveling build you want. Now I'm not really going to be talking about classes or anything like that you start off the game with, because I just made a video about that, go check it out. I know the audio is slightly off, but there was also one mistake I made in the video, which was endurance is actually the thing that has your equipment load now, not strength. So bear that in mind when you go watch it. Anyway, let's get on to the video. Now, before we start talking about builds, I want to make sure everyone knows how the levels work. Now, the community level cap is up to 120, but that's with most Souls games. I would be assuming that maybe it will be a little bit higher, to be honest, because I've seen some of the soft and hard caps in the game. But in saying that, I still recommend going for level 120, because if you level up to 120 and it goes up to 150, then, well, at least you can still level up to 150. You can't reverse level, so you can't be 150 and try to go back to 120. It just doesn't work like that. But that's pretty simple. Now, this is assuming that you care about doing some PvP, because most of the community will be at this level, so just think about it, do you want to do PvP or PvE? So we do have to talk about the soft and hard caps. So when you reach the soft cap, you won't level up your health, strength, or anything like that as much as you used to before that level. The exact same thing goes with a hard cap, except the hard cap puts a big stop on it. Basically meaning you want to most likely invest in something else. Now that the basic leveling things are out of the way, we can talk about builds. Now, the first thing you need to do when you are making your own build is think about what you want to do. Now, I know this might sound really obvious, but I know a lot of people don't actually think about this before they start a game. Now, I'm gonna 100% recommend to go with either a hybrid build or a quality style build, just so you can have a bit more of an experimentation with all the weapons and magic in the game. It's really not known what is gonna be overpowered in the game when the game launches. I mean, the Beast Claw, it looks really powerful, but who knows, they might have nerfed it to the living meaning when we get our hands on it, it could literally be doing like 2 damage, even though I think it will still probably be pretty decent. Now let's say you want to be a hardcore melee user. So you want to be able to use a greatsword, but at the same time you want to be using the smaller, lighter weapons like the katana. Well, then you really want to go for a quality build. The quality build is basically a dexterity and strength. You also gotta make sure that you put enough into vigor and endurance, just because you'll be a lot more tankier with those two. Plus, with more endurance, you can carry around heavier weapons to do even more damage. But let's say you want to be a wizard, you'll have to go a completely different route. You want to invest more into intelligence, fate, and mind, for example. Deciding this is probably one of the main things you need to focus on right now, before the game actually comes out. You can have a look at a lot of people who have already played the game, and you can see all the cool things. There's a lot of magical abilities in the game now, and they look amazing. But keep in mind, most of these Ashes of War and such things allow you to cast spells even with a melee build. But that doesn't mean mages are useless or anything like that, it just means that some of the Ashes of War can also be used by melee builds. One thing to definitely watch out for is if you're going for, let's say, a quality build, and you've leveled up quite a bit, you're like level 50, 40 or something like that, and I don't know where you get all these spells and you're like, I really want to use them, and then you all of a sudden start investing into intelligence, fate, and the mind, all that kind of stuff. It will hinder you when you're trying to fight people in PvP. But you can also struggle with PvE. Some of the bosses will take hardly any damage from you because, well, you just started leveling up into intelligence while you've had a strength/dexterity build. Meaning your magic and your melee is gonna be quite weak. It's like that old saying goes, a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Now, one thing I would definitely recommend is to kind of focus your build around a weapon you really like. Now, the great thing about building around a weapon you really like is that, one, you like the weapon, so you're probably good with it. And 2, that weapon will do so much more damage when you spec your entire build around that weapon. Meaning it should only take a few hits for most enemies to go down. Or even just one. Now, in order to level around your weapon, you really need to understand the scaling of the weapon itself. For example, right here I just got the Winged Spear, which the scaling is D for strength and C for dexterity. Now with a weapon like this, you want to more focus on your dexterity than your strength, because it scales better with dexterity than strength. But let's say the strength would be A on this one, and the dexterity would still be C. That would basically mean you want to do it the other way around, because the strength would be the more stronger version of the scaling. Also for you guys who aren't too aware of it, S is actually the best version, even though A is the first in the alphabet. It's just a Japanese thing, I'm not too sure why. Now, when you do start off the game, don't worry about your weapon build, because you can actually respec later so you can make the perfect build for your weapon. Now, this will most likely be just like on Dark Souls 3 with Rosaria. Miyazaki did state that there will be some limitations to this, so you do have to watch out a little bit. But if it's just like Dark Souls 3, that basically just means that you have a limited amount of respecs. Now, when it comes to leveling for a quality or a hybrid build, I really recommend going with the 340 strat plus 130 strat. This means you can allocate, let's say, 30 into vigor, 40 into endurance, then another 40 into strength, and another 40 into dexterity. That's how you make the basicest of basic builds for quality. Now, if you want to make a different build, let's say like a hybrid build, like a strength intelligence build, for example, you just grab all that dexterity and all that endurance and you chuck that in to intelligence and a little bit of mind as well. I do recommend having a bit of endurance because it's just always handy. You can also chuck some of the vigor into mind instead as well, maybe 50 it out a little bit like that. Now, with this strategy as well, you'll have around about 10 to 5 levels left, depending on what class you chose at the beginning. But this also means that, for Elden Ring for example, I think I might actually chuck this into Mind, just because it will help me a little bit more with my summons and Ashes of War. Now, just keep in mind, this is my way of doing it. You can have your absolute own way of doing things. Maybe you only like allocating 30 to each one of the stats. And hey, if that works for you, it works for you. You should do that then. But I prefer to do 3 40s and 130. But yeah, like I said, everyone is different. Just build the best build to your own thing. So I know I told you I wasn't going to talk about classes, but I kind of feel like I have to. I'm just going to put up some stats for all the classes quickly, but I'm not going to go into depth with it. If you want to go more into depth with it, my last video, it goes into depth about all the classes a little bit more than this. So, for example, if you're going for a full-out strength build, you're not going to choose the Astrologer because the Astrologer doesn't have much strength, it doesn't have much vigor, so you're not tanky, you're not going to be able to take hardly any hits, and also, well, you have no strength, so your weapons are going to do nothing, and you don't start off with a good weapon for your strength build. So when you're starting off with a strength build, you more want to go towards someone like the Hero or the Vagabond. But hey, if you're gonna go for like a dexterity, maybe go for the Warrior, Samurai, you know. Those are good classes for dexterity. Okay, so now, I know this sounds really basic with all the like classes. Like obviously you're not gonna choose the Hero for a mage build, for example. It's just another thing to consider for when you're making your build. And there will also be a lot of new players out there who have no idea what they're doing. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this video up because I've been rambling for long enough. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I am curious, what kind of builds will you guys make? Because I really want to see someone build something with Arcane. That seems like it's gonna be a bit of a weird one, because I haven't seen anything good about it yet. But you never know, there'll probably be that one weapon that's gonna be extremely overpowered with it. Anyway guys, you have a good one, and bye!